Hello and welcome to the evening paper. I'm James Brown from jamesbrowntv.com, James Brown TV everywhere. There's a lot going on, a lot that I find really interesting. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello and welcome to the evening paper. James Brown here. jamesbrowntv.com, James Brown TV everywhere. There's a lot I wanted to get to in this edition. There's a lot that I think is intriguing going on. And when I think about starting this one, I'm led to do something strange, something that I never really thought I'd do in late summer 2018, and I found myself Googling Kobe Bryant birthday. So for those of you watching the visual version of this, you'll see on the screen Kobe Bryant birthday in Google. Kobe Bryant turned 40. Why is this a news story? That's the question. It's not a big deal that Kobe Bryant turned 40. People get older. Even icons like Kobe Bryant get older. The fact that he's 40, I guess it's a milestone. It is a milestone in my life or your life, maybe. But my question was, why is Kobe Bryant getting this kind of attention after his basketball days are over? I know he's gone through this dramatic rebrand where he took control of the reins of production and the perception of him as a figure into his own hands. And he won an Oscar in the process. I mean, if you've seen Dear Basketball, it's a short. It's on YouTube, and it won an Oscar. It's outstanding. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful rendering. But that doesn't speak to the level of discourse surrounding Kobe Bryant getting older. Now, I do have a theory about this. It's not a, rocket science, but it is something that came screaming at me. We are in late summer. We're the dog days of media. Baseball is not intriguing, especially sports media. Baseball's not intriguing. Baseball's not interesting. Baseball, it does not grab the attention of the sports world until October. It just doesn't. It's not a dramatic piece of discourse in the sports media world. Not at large. Now, in pockets, it's huge. If you are in Cardinals Twitter, if you are in Red Sox Twitter, if you are in Yankees Twitter, if you are in those places where those things are gigantic, you can't escape them. But for the most of us, the folks who are looking at the macro, not so much. Baseball is regional. It's pastoral. It's not national. Not anymore. That's why if you put on a baseball show nationally, Fox airs games on Saturday nights often and on Saturday afternoons, they don't get big ratings. They don't. Sometimes college football beats it. It's the truth about baseball. So what else is going on? There's the NFL preseason. We're gearing up for a new season. There's college football. We're gearing up for that season. There's all the sorts of scandals. Urban Meyer. All sorts of craziness with Maryland. All sorts of nuttiness going on. But even those things are relatively minor. They're not totally swallowing the zeitgeist like the NFL will when it returns in a couple weeks in full blast. Even the craziness with the whole anthem, even though the craziness with rule changes, not so much. Not to the degree that they would hope. Now, by day, I work in social media marketing, not entirely, but mostly. And when you work in social media marketing, when your gig is creating content constantly, you find yourself stretching, searching, straining for content. Going for whatever you want. That's why you see theme weeks on websites. Like The Ringer. They love a theme week. Why? Because it can create a bunch of content around that theme, and they don't have to worry about the main thrust of what they do because there are ebbs and flows in the news cycle. There simply are. It goes up and down and all around. It's not an even flow. So having theme weeks are a way to deal with this reality of the constant thirst for content, the constant need for content, the constant grind that is modern media production. So what do? What they do is dig deep into the well. And it's not like Kobe didn't play along. He definitely did. Look at this photo of him. He posted on Instagram. It's 39 and his middle finger up next to it. He's certainly playing along. But even if you go through the series of news stories, and there were so many news stories on the fact that Kobe Bryant got older, many of them were written the day or 2 days before. You can tell that from the timestamps. So what's going on here? We are in the dog days of summer. We are stretching for content. And what these modern media institutions are all doing is that they're tapping a vein. They're tapping a vein that they know. Kobe's one of the most polarizing figures in the history of modern sports. He and his stands, and if you don't know what stands is, I mean, I suggest you listen to more hip-hop. A stan, for those of you who don't know, is a super fan. I think that the phrase comes from probably the Eminem song. At least that's the first I heard of it. The classic, Stan. And if you really want to understand it, at least the most extreme version of it, you should watch the video for Stan. It's one of the darkest things I've ever seen. It's also one of those things that made Dido a huge star, a huger star at the moment. There was a big moment where that song was played with Elton John and Eminem at the Grammys, I believe. But Kobe has these maniacal fans, these dedicated maniacal fans that are Kobe fans first and fans of the Lakers and everybody else later. So what these content genies online have decided to do is that we're going to rattle these stands. We're going to shake that tree with Kobe's birthday. We're going to publish story after story after story after story about Kobe Bryant's birthday. And we're going to draw in those stands because we don't believe that the content that's going on today is worth it. And of course, it is somewhat of a milestone, strangely enough. So I think this is something that you should be on the lookout for in this era of fake news, because this is essentially the fakest of fake news. It's something, it's in some ways worse than fake news, I'd say, because it's a non-story that a lot of time, effort, and news hole is dedicated toward. The fact that he's older. I find it disgusting that the amount of just sheer gushing about him on his birthday. And maybe that's me being a Grinch. It could be, certainly. I'm often a Grinch. Grinch is kind of my thing. Sorry to anyone who didn't expect that, but hey, you know what? I like Grinching. But it's something that you should definitely consider. On some more Grinching and more strange media phenomena. Some of you have heard of the Daily Wire. Probably most famous at this point for Ben Shapiro, the young wonderkin conservative pundit. He turned his Daily Wire podcast into now a syndicated radio show. And the Daily Wire itself is sort of a conservative HuffPo. It's in the vein of Breitbart. It's this strange concoction. It's this it's one of those modern, well, it's not entirely a modern phenomena, because if you really think about it, yellow journalism has been around forever. But this is definitely an example of it modernly. And one of the things that has been a reoccurring theme is its obsession with CNN and its obsession with CNN's ratings. And I will honestly say that CNN isn't doing great this year. Not great ratings wise. It's actually returning to the mean. Last year was a milestone for CNN. They had the highest rated year in its history. Highest rated year in its history. It returned to the top 10 of all cable networks, not just cable news networks, but cable networks. And had the highest rated year in its history. And this year, it's all sort of regressing to the mean. Despite this rational set of ideas, the Daily Wire and several writers there have been obsessed with the concept of CNN crashing ratings-wise. Now, there's a couple things when you look at any sort of news stories, but especially stories about ratings, because and especially when it comes to news, you have to put these stories in proper context. You just can't compare year to year, especially when it comes to these outlets that are based on breaking news. So if you are in mid-August 2018 and the breaking news cycle is not as hot as you were a year ago in August 2017, your numbers are not going to be as high as they were a year ago because there was a huge breaking news. Perhaps the huge breaking news will be in September or October or January. It's not news in many ways is real reality TV in that it's not predictable. We don't know when awful things like what happened a year ago with Charlottesville happen. So let's go through the Daily Wired piece here. They base it on a link to TV Newser. TV Newser is a site that I've been to for years and years and years. It was founded by Brian Stelter, a guy that I think we'll be talking about a lot on the show. And the article goes like this. May was a disastrous month for CNN's primetime schedule compared to 2017, according to Adweek. CNN's primetime programming plunged a whopping 25% from the same period last year. As AJ Capps recorded, compared to its May 2017 performance, CNN was minus 27% in primetime viewers, minus 34% in primetime demo, minus 20% in total day viewers, and minus 27% in total day demo. Katz noted succinctly, primetime is the day part news advertisers traditionally look when determining their ad spend. CNN finished third in the day part behind CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. Now, there's a couple things about this that I'd like to point out. CNN's been in third place in prime time for roughly a decade. So this is why they forced Larry King out. CNN has been having their ass kicked by Fox News for 16 years. Same thing with MSNBC. MSNBC was having their ass kicked by Fox News for 16 years. I believe it's 65 consecutive quarters that Fox News has been beating these networks. Now, with that said, CNN is reliant on breaking news. Now, when the news cycle is up and going incredibly strongly, CNN's numbers jump to the roof. Most news numbers jump to the roof, but especially someplace like CNN. Because CNN, while it is ideological, it's not a home to an ideological base. MSNBC is mostly, their ideology is mostly left. Fox is definitely very, very right. And CNN, and since the inception of Fox News, has found itself trapped in the middle, and that was okay for a while until that caught up with them in the early aughts. And they've been struggling ever since. Now, there's a really interesting thing that was omitted from this talk year to year. A year ago, CNN was up Monday through Sunday prime time. I'm reading from TV Newser. Up 26% total. Now, this is from 2016 to 2017. Up 26%. And up 39% in the primetime money demo. That's 25 to 64 in cable news. Now, those aren't they described it in this article as solid. That's not solid. That's crazy. That's insane jumps. You don't jump 25% and expect continued growth at that rate, especially not in cable TV. That is insanity. So what we're seeing year to year is obviously a regression to the mean. That CNN had a certain level, that it has a certain level that it was at in 2016. It jumped in the middle of the beginning of Trump mania in just a crazy news year that was 2017. And this year, as Trump mania became normalized, I hate that term these days, but it has been. It's become normalized. Its ratings have receded back to where they were before the Trump bump, as they call it. Now, there have been variations of this article 2 other times on the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire is a part of, I'm mostly right wing. I mean, I think some lefties and folks outside, Tim Pool, for example, believe this line that essentially that CNN is just tanking, that their ratings are out of control bad, that they're insanity. But what they're doing is that they're taking these numbers out of context. They're not thinking these through, and they're not looking at it in a larger scope. What they're doing is shaping the narrative to fit their ideology. They're cherry picking numbers to fit their ideology, and it's dangerous and really disgusting, and it's, you know, it's one of those things that I'm glad that we're in an era where I could pick up a microphone and I can challenge it. Because in other scenarios where speech were more constrained, I couldn't challenge this. This is a news organization. How dare I as a normal run of the mill citizen challenge this official story? It is official looking. I mean, if you look at their website, it looks all sorts of official, even if it's BS, even if it's disgusting. I find their approach, especially to CNN, really kind of skewed and weird. And I think there are much easier, much more exploitable ways to beat up on CNN than looking at ratings and taking them out of context and presenting them out of context. I mean, all you have to do is look at their programming, which I intend to do on this show. I intend to present to you some strange, dark, ridiculous CNN segments, because CNN is the home of awful news segments. It is terrible from that perspective. But numbers-wise, This is purely cherry picking. And I don't think it's reflective of reality.
I don't give a fuck. Starting September 12th, we will be up to 2 episodes a week.
Oh, yeah.
Starting September 12th, 2 episodes per week, dropping, I want to say, one Wednesday, one Saturday. If I'm married to that, I think I am.
Saturday is sexy.
Yeah. And niggas be beat on Saturday, man.
You laying in bed. You ain't doing shit.
Yeah, you're not trying to talk to your girl.
And the winter coming.
Yeah.
They're gonna be chilling.
Yeah, do some yard work maybe if you're somewhere where there's yards.
Where there's yards.
Nah,
I live around.
That's the white boy bag talking.
Nah,
yards.
I got a
White
yard.
boys do
yeah,
yards.
gotta-
You don't do your yard.
No, hell no.
All right, then. So you don't know nothing
Your
about
people are
a
gonna be
yard work
listening.
on Saturday.
Yeah, tuned in.
On Thursdays, the landscapers come and hedge.
Hedge.
Get the fuck out of here.
They come in hedge.
They be mad at me when I want them to hedge some extra shit, too.
You know you live in a nice area when you use words like hedge.
Yo, fam, the walkway, man, trees and bushes. They like they can't never understand what
Now,
I'm
we
saying.
hedge uptown, too. We just get a crackhead to do everything. Yo, spray the sidewalk, my G.
My G. 2 episodes a week starting September 12th, Wednesday and Saturday. Hit my gunshot. Audio exclusive. Damn, where's my fucking breaking news? I don't know if I can play the breaking news thing. Audio exclusive on Spotify only.
That's Joe Budden, Rory, and Maul from the Joe Budden podcast. I really wish they didn't change their name. It used to be I'll Name This Podcast Later. I thought that was a cooler name than Joe Budden Podcast, but that's just me. And that is a huge piece of news into the podcast universe. The Joe Budden Podcast is now, at least audio-wise, Spotify exclusive. Now, this speaks to a really, really, really interesting trend in terms of podcasting and in terms of media. We have these larger podcast firms. We're seeing this with Amy Schumer. We're seeing this with, we saw this with Rap Radar podcast. We saw this with several other shows where we're now seeing these large entities come in and buy up or at least cut deals with these podcast creators to have them exclusive on their platform. Now, cleverly, Joe Budden podcast called this episode, "They're Gonna Regret This." And I don't think they're going to regret this. I mean, look, they got, as they said on the show, the bag. They were paid large dollars by Spotify to be Spotify exclusive. And when they air on Spotify, they're going to be aired with commercials unless you have a Spotify membership. But part of me wants to praise Budden by finding a way to monetize his show, his audience, without charging his audience. Anything other than live shows. And part of me wants to think, meditate, idea that Budden has figured out well, not so much figure out, that Budden is essentially taking a chance that the folks on Stitcher, that the folks like myself, I'm a Stitcher guy, the folks on Apple, the folks on other platforms will come to Spotify to listen to his show. Essentially, he is doing what the NBA did when they took the bag from Disney to leave NBC. A massive platform, but on NBC, but Disney and ESPN and ABC said, hey, come over here, put most of your games on cable, and we'll pay you more. We'll pay you more to be on cable mostly and broadcast a little, and your audience will get smaller, and the audience will come to you. It has happened. I think it's an argument whether they ever hit the heights that they hit on NBC, and whether anybody can hit those heights with any sport not called football. But it paid off for the league. It took it out of everybody could partake in a ton of our games to, hey, we're going to make people pay for more of our content. We'll take the hit up front. We'll grow the audience of ESPN. We'll change the expectations over time, and the audience will adjust to us. Will adjust to us. And it apparently worked. I mean, you could argue that over time, whether it was smart, whether they could have found a third way or not, but the league didn't stop growing. The league continued to evolve and grow. In a way, this is what happens when a free podcast goes onto a single platform instead of many platforms. Now, when I say that it's exclusive-ish, it's because each episode will appear on YouTube still 48 hours after the release. I'm a fan of Joe Budden's show, and I watch his show on YouTube primarily. I don't think I've ever downloaded the show ever. So if you're Spotify, what are you paying for? What are you paying for if folks like me and the hundreds of thousands of people who watch his show on YouTube they're not listening to it on Spotify? If there's a different flow of viewership, listenership that's not on your platform, what are you paying for? What are you paying for? It's one of these strange deals that either will have to change, or maybe Spotify is smart enough to know that you're not going to get that YouTube viewership anyway. Are you really only paying for a 48-hour window where it's only on Spotify? Really? That seems strange. That doesn't seem worth it. And it seems like they are committed to it. I mean, they erected a mass in Times Square in New York. They're definitely spending all sorts of money on this, and they definitely think that he could be a standard bearer for them. Maybe. But in my point of view, this seems quite strange. It seems like they're not paying for something that's theirs. They're renting 48 hours a week, or I guess 2 48-hour periods a week, since it's twice a week. And I don't think that's worth much. I'm not rushing to get Spotify to chase down Joe Budden. Like, I'm happy with my streaming service, and I think people are happy with their streaming services. It's like the Beats One conundrum, and I'm about to get into the Beats One conundrum coming up soon. Beats One is apparently a fantastic service, but I'm not rushing over to Apple in order to listen to DJs. My assumption is that they're seeing these things as value added enterprises, and if we bring up on enough niches that it can be a part of a larger decision. When I decide between Amazon Music and Apple Music and Spotify and Tidal, that Joe Budden is a part of the conversation. That's my only assumption. The only thing that makes any kind of sense here, at least on my end. In other news about podcasts, Andrew Schultz in the No Easy Buckets podcast, well, Flagrant 2 as it is in podcast world, they've been picked up by CBS Sports Dad.
Hey, the inaugural episode, what is it?
Inaugural.
Oh, the inaugural
First.
episode, the first. That means first episode of CBS Sports' No Easy Buckets
Yes, sir.
is on tonight.
Tonight.
6 p.m.
Eastern.
CBS Sports.
Download
Watch
the
so
app.
we can have a second episode.
Yes.
Hey.
Let's not get canceled first episode. Watch, and keep it tight. Always.
Bye.
That's Andrew Schultz. That's Akash Singh, and I'm not sure what Kaz's last name. It's Famuzid. I can't pronounce it. They're the hosts of Flagrant 2 No Easy Buckets, and they have taken I'd say a homogenized version of their show to CBS Sports. So I find it I find it as another version of essentially the same thing, where you now have these, or the difference between, well, to back up a moment, the difference between a cable network, a podcast, and music subscription, an audio subscription service has been blurring more and more, and now we're seeing content creators float from one to the other without any sort of without any sort of real boundary between them all. And part of me is really happy for these guys, because they're obviously getting paid. They went from being not really paid or being paid a little. Podcasts don't make a ton of money in most cases, and now they're being paid. So that makes me happy for them. On the other hand, I look at this and I see this as another desperate ploy to grab any kind of audience share on any in any way possible. And the fact that these worlds are all blurring is really interesting, and I think it's definitely a story that I'll be following as I go forward. It's been a really, really, really interesting week for Nicki Minaj. I said I'd get to Beats One at some point. And she has her own, I guess, Beats One show. Was it a Beats One? Is it a Apple Music channel? I'm not exactly sure. But she has definitely a show that she's hosting herself, which is a little bit odd. Usually when you have a star of her magnitude there with a person. I know when Drake appears on his OVO Sound radio, it's not by himself. When Eminem appears on Shade 45 on XM or Sirius XM, he's not by himself. But Nicki Minaj decided that she was going to show up on Queen Radio. Queen is the name of her album, and she, of course, named her station Queen. And that she was going to let loose. The album sales didn't turn out the way she wanted them to be. So she decided to let her rip. And I don't think I've ever heard anything like this before. Not from a star.
Yeah. I just got a call from the upper echelon. Okay, NickiMinajQueen.com. Get the All Access Queens quarters pass now for the U.S. Queen Tour. I'll announce dates and city soon, but this pass is good for any date in the city. Yeah. You done blood clot puss. Yo. So I just got a call from one of the big bosses. I said, am I in trouble? Yeah, okay. Uh-huh. So now, well, let's back up. Let's back up. Shout out to all of the women. There have been so many women and men, but there have been so many iconic, historic women showing me so much love lately. And you know, and there's also some blogs. I don't want to pretend that, you know, every publication or blog is being mean or bad to Nicki. In fact, some publications and blogs have been speaking out about the smear campaign that they've been privy to, knowing about behind the scenes.
Okay, so the smear campaign that she's speaking of is that of Travis Scott. He's a rapper and singer's manager, Irvin Aroff. That Irving is essentially attacking Nicki and Nicki's tour, and she called Irvin the cocksucker of the day.
Okay, and so because of that, I want to say this is entertainment, okay? And I'm gonna get them what they motherfucking came for. Surgery with the chainsaw. So, all I'm saying is that I hope you guys don't think that this is like some real, like, getting the guns out type things. You know? Now, I want to talk about, TMZ posted a video saying Kylie Jenner avoided me at the red carpet. And I saw it, and it was funny. I thought it was really funny, and I actually thought it was cute. Now, for the record, who knows how to do that swipe up thing on Instagram quick? G. I want to say something about that really, really quickly. Can you take the music off, Booth, for a second? It's kind of...
Now, this is just a bit.
I want to say something.
This is just a bit of hours and hours of Nicki Minaj live on Apple Music ranting wildly. Most of it has been ripped and is on YouTube now if you don't have Apple Music. But this is profoundly strange and not something that you see any other star besides maybe Kanye West. And not even Kanye West. I mean, even Kanye West was cognizant enough to get Charlamagne the God to come on his YouTube channel and give a sit-down, professional-sounding interview. You know, even with the TMZ stuff, even with the wild Twitter stuff, he's not getting on his own station and ranting wildly, verbally. He's not hurling accusations that are libelous at folks. Live in a radio station named after an album that nobody liked. Not enough people bought by her standards.
About this video that TMZ posted about Kylie Jenner avoiding me at the red carpet. I said it on the last show and I'm going to say it again. I fucking love Kylie. And that's not going to change. She has been put in probably a little awkward situation, but this is not real life. This is entertainment, you guys. I love Kylie and so do my fans. You know, Kim was on my first Queen radio show. Fucking love her. So we're not going to do that. Now it's obvious she got to ride with her man. Why the fuck wouldn't she? So, but we're not going to make this something that it's not. Because she's a dope girl. She's done absolutely nothing wrong but support her people. And we're not going to start any dumbass cat fights for your fucking entertainment. We're not. This is strictly between music. Within music. She's not a musician. She has nothing to do with this. She supported her man as she should. So my fans and I are not feeding into this. We love Kylie. So it's never gonna happen. Shout out to Kanye. Shout out to Kanye West. Has opened the door for so many people. Has inspired this fashion industry to the point of no fucking return. Has inspired people to speak their fucking minds. Has shown us that talent wins no matter what. You can say, you know, when he's, and I keep seeing the word rant. I don't know, but I'm having the time of my fucking life.
It definitely was a rant. Look, this speaks to something I find really, really, really kind of fascinating. We're seeing this shape shift in how artists are presenting themselves. We're seeing how, whether with J. Cole bringing in Angie Martinez, and not to mention J. Cole having his own documentary made. It's, as I mentioned, Kanye and bringing in Charlamagne the God. And particularly in the hip hop game, we're seeing folks pay careful mind to how they're presented. Take complete control over how they're presented. And Queen Radio feels like not only an example of it, but a poor example of it. It's like there was no one in there to reel her in as she ranted for 3 hours. And that was just one episode. Ranting, throwing accusations. Vulture did a ridiculous, and I mean a ridiculous, had to be a 2,500 word piece on explaining what the hell is going on with Nicki Minaj and Travis Scott. And I just found it's confounding. The fact that she would put her garbage out like that speaks to lack of an infrastructure around her, lack of a team to surround her, lack of guidance of how she's supposed to move and what is expected of her and how she projects herself as a star in these days, in this moment. And it's not sad, because there are many things in the world to be sad about. I mean, that's not one of them. But it is one of those things where it's like, how does this happen? How do you get to this point where you're willing to throw yourself out there as unhinged as she has? Even though you've had wild amounts of success, and it's like you can't accept being in second place at all. It's a very, very strange set of circumstances. It's one that could lead to her ultimate downfall, honestly. Truly bizarre. For now, this has been the Evening Paper. I'm James Brown. You can find me online everywhere at James Brown TV, jamesbrowntv.com. Keep your knees loose, and I good you good night.